Hi, guys. Thanks for coming out this morning.
Welcome to Iowa.
I'm glad to be in Iowa, actually. I was here a long, long time ago. Are you all? I have a feeling that some of you are from disparate places besides Iowa, yes?
Who here is actually from Iowa? Okay, and who traveled to be here? Wow, well, thank you.
Bless you all. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have Nightmare Weekend, specifically in this building. Chris, I don't know if you know, and I don't know how many of you guys know, this is the very building now, with some modifications, that Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off the bat.
Well, well.
So a little Nightmare Weekend.
I would say that's a nightmare I'd rather not experience.
Were you an Ozzy fan? Who was your go-to? Like, what would you know when you were working and you're getting into the mood? Who would you listen to?
It's a good question, because I started out, one of my first show business experience was I was in a rock and roll band when I was in high school, and we were the kind of the local house band whenever anybody would come through. I grew up in West Virginia, in a small coal mining town, and we backed up Bobby Darin and a group called Danny and the Juniors, and we played on the same bill with Carl Perkins, who was the famous performer who did Blue Suede Shoes before Elvis did. And so my tastes come from another era in a way. I was really into R&B, but early R&B, like Big Joe Turner and Little Eva, and these are, oh, we got somebody who knows what I'm talking about. And also, I had an uncle by marriage who was a big jazz fan. So he got me interested in jazz, so I was into jazz too. I was a drummer. And so my tastes are very eclectic. I love classical music as well. My wife just finished directing an opera, and I went out and hung with her while she was doing it in Aspen, Colorado, which is very beautiful. So I have really broad tastes, and I listen to all kinds of music.
Do you feel that kind of helps you, especially in the entertainment film industry, because you are, I mean, your list of your credentials very wide-ranging, from horror, Nightmare Weekend, to doing voice work, to comedies, to actions. Do you feel that having a wide variety of stuff that you listen to, that you like, helps in that wide variety of what you are able to put out?
Well, I guess so. I mean, a lot of people think that actors just kind of, they sit by the phone rings, they pick it up, you say, yeah, I'll be there, and you hang up. No, you spend a lot of time auditioning, being rejected. In fact, I tell this story all the time. If you've heard it, forgive me. But one of my daughters, who's now grown and has 3 children, she was about 5 or 6 years old, and she was sitting with a friend and the friend's mom, and they were sitting around talking about what their daddies do. And the woman asked her own daughter, well, you know what daddy does, don't you? And the little girl said, yeah, daddy makes wires in houses. And she said, that's right, daddy's an electrician. And she asked my daughter what I did, and my daughter said, yeah, he looks for work. Well, that's the reality of being an actor.
Yeah, I've heard that some actors have said that they are a professional auditioner.
Yes, exactly. And even, in the times when I was, sort of fully in the movie business and had gotten an Oscar nomination and was, making a lot of movies, there were times when I still had to audition, depending. Right. I auditioned for Princess Bride. I went and auditioned with Bill Goldman and Rob Reiner for Princess Bride.
Do you know who you beat out?
I have no idea. And I wouldn't mention it even if I did. I wouldn't have the bad taste to do that.
As I said, a wide variety of movies, especially in the horror genre. I mentioned Child's Play. We don't have to talk about The Sentinel.
Thank you very much.
Fright Night, Nightmare Before Christmas, kind of in that genre. But a lot of
Child's Play
have the longevity of these movies, especially in this genre. Child's Play being seemingly reborn again every couple of years.
I know, crazy.
What was it like the first? I have to know. What was it like the first time that you saw the Chucky doll on set?
Actually, when you think about, first of all, the premise of the movie, which to me is brilliant, is we've all had a favorite, figure when we were kids, a teddy bear or a doll or whatever. The idea that this would come to life was certainly in everybody's imagination at some place along the way. So the first time I saw it, I found it a little chilling, quite frankly. Yeah, I thought he was scary, just because of the fact that he was going to be animated, that this thing was going to come to life. And of course, then the reality set in, which is it was not scary at all, because you're working on a set with sometimes half of the figure. Sometimes you're working on like a stage like this where there are men underneath it operating Chucky, right? Little people, children on big sets, so that the sets are oversized, so the child looks like it's Chucky's size. Trying to think. Oh, and then just an arm with a knife coming at you. It kind of takes the mystery out of it when that happens, especially if it's coming up through here.
Of course, Fright Nights, having the longevity. Did you realize that when making some of these movies that they would have that Fright Night would still be talked about to this day, that you would have people come up to your table and talk about Fright Night and the lasting effect that it had on them?
I think every actor and or director or producer who's in this business, who makes movies or television, will tell you that if you have a premonition that something's going to be a huge success, it generally is not. Oh. And as you make the gesture,
yep,
that you don't talk about it.
Right.
But generally speaking, you know when you're involved in something that's special or different. I knew that with The Princess Bride. I knew that with this, with The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was stunning in its visual imagination and conception. But I don't think you ever have a sense of whether it's going to be first successful and make money, because if they did that, then every movie out would make money, because there'd be a formula, and there isn't. And there's something about the longevity of these things and the fact that they're appealing to multi-generations. They start with fans who see the original movie, and then those fans show their kids the movie, and then their kids show their kids the movie, and it becomes a phenomenon of some kind. It becomes a cult, or becomes a big thing. Nightmare has sort of taken over Halloween. It's crazy. Right? It's crazy.
Nightmare takes over. It's basically from August till January. So you almost get the entire half of the second half of the year.
Second half, yeah, that's right, because then there's Christmas as well.
Right, because there's Christmas. Little poll: who out there thinks Nightmare is a Halloween movie? Christmas movie? Both? It's a Thanksgiving movie.
Thanksgiving movie. An Easter movie. Yes, right.
Do you have a preference over, not for the movie, but yourself, either Halloween or Christmas? Do you have a preference over which one you like better?
It's interesting, because growing up, I would have said Halloween, but then another story. My kids always used to hound me when I was with them and I was acting about Halloween and why I didn't want to dress up. And I would tell them I dress up for a living. So it's not like a big deal to me to take that one time of the year when very often I have to go to a set and get into a costume that puts me into a different century, or a different, a place where I'm not, I normally don't wear a coat and a tie. When I'm doing Law and Order, you do. Halloween, kind of the magic kind of went out of it when I started acting constantly and doing Broadway shows from different periods and what have you, musicals. So it's much more Christmas, I think. Yeah.
Much more Christmas?
Yeah.
I think it's more, especially family related, right?
Yes.
Family.
And I have 9 grandkids, so Christmas time is insane.
So very
really
expensive.
Crazy. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot. By the way, yes, if you have any questions, please feel free to line up. Hello, what is your name?
My name is Stephanie, And
I have a
am
daughter named
huge
Stephanie.
fan,
Hi.
especially of Nightmare Before Christmas. We are one of those families that we start in, September, and it's carried through January.
Great.
With that being said, well, thank you first and foremost for being a huge part of that. We admire you. What is your favorite holiday?
I think, interestingly, it's Easter. And the reason is because I'm Greek, and we do a big celebration for the Greek Orthodox Church. It's a big holiday. It's one of the biggest of the year. And my entire family get together, including my ex-wife and her kids and our kids together. And it really has the sense to me not only of the meaning of the actual holiday, but also how it's a perfect representation of the community that I'm part of. So that's the one, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, what's your name?
Melissa?
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. When you got cast as Jack, did you think you would have to do the singing voice as well?
No, the singing had already been done.
So you got the job after?
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things I was exposed to before I auditioned was listening to some of the songs that Danny sang, and I saw some of the animation. They'd done some of Danny's animation, Danny Elfman, the composer, and who sang all the songs, and who is a great genius. So I was able to listen to them and get a flavor of the character, and also they wanted a voice that worked with Danny's voice, because there were transitions that happened literally right out of the song into speaking and back and forth sometimes, and they needed a way of doing that that didn't have to manipulate electronically, and so I guess I got lucky, quite frankly.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Hello, what's your name? Nice shirt.
My name's Colton. I had two questions. One, what's your favorite project that you've ever worked on? And then two, what's it like to work with Tim Burton?
The first question is, to say a favorite is hard, but I do often speak of, I did an adaptation for television of Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Cities, where I played both characters. There's a gentleman who's actually seen it over here. and this was back in the 80s, I think, yeah. I got to work with a cast of some of the greatest English actors in history, British actors in history, and did it in England and in Paris. So that was very exciting. The other ones would have to be The Princess Bride, which was such a great time. We had a wonderful time doing it. And Nightmare Before Christmas, certainly. And Fright Night, because aside from the fact that I really liked the script and loved doing it, we get together, the cast. I'm going to Orlando in a couple of weeks, and the cast is going to be there. We go out to dinner together. There's a text chain that we're on that we're constantly, and a lot of it has to do with we give each other a hard time. We're basically ragging each other constantly. Jonathan Stark, who played my sidekick Billy, who was a former, it still is, an improvisational comedian, who's devastating when it comes to, watch out. If you've got a chink in your armor, John goes for it. I have to say those four, plus, there are others, 5, 6. I've been lucky.
Thank you.
Oh, second question. What was it?
Working with Tim Burton.
Oh, and Tim Burton, after the movie was done, Henry Selick directed the movie, right? You guys know that. The guy who directed Coraline and James and the Giant Peach. Great stop-motion director, unparalleled. Henry Selick. From the story by Tim and the characters which were drawn by Tim. And then at the end of the movie, there was some stuff that I wanted to, after seeing a version of it, that I would like to do some of my voice stuff again, and Tim wanted to do some other stuff. So he and I got together and we did what's called ADR, where you're looking at the screen and you're dubbing into the movie that's already been made. And he was great. We spent like 2 days together in the studio, and he's a very sweet guy, very collaborative, and also very positive to work with. He was great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Corey.
Hi, Corey.
This is kind of a dorky question, but something I was thinking about.
No such thing.
A lot of your scenes in Princess Bride, you were also with Christopher Guest. When filming those, was there like some confusion, or did you have to say, or did they have to say like, "Hey, Sarandon, hey, Guest"?
Oh, you mean Chris and Chris?
Yeah.
Never. No, there's no confusion when it comes to, I don't think we had, they may have called me Humperdinck and him Rugen. I don't remember in terms of, this is where you go and this is where you go. But generally speaking, Chris and I spent a lot of time together. And we rode a lot. You never see it in the movie, but we did a lot of riding. And we also spent a lot of time in the car going to and from the sets. And he's a really interesting traveling companion because he's really smart and he's really funny. And to try to keep up with him it's a trek. Yeah, but I loved him. He was great.
You mentioned having to travel around a lot for the movie. I've heard the story about Andre the Giant and his ATV.
I wish I knew that story really well. Cary Elwes, if you guys have ever seen Cary do his show, his touring show, he tells some great stories about Andre. I do have an Andre story. Interested? Okay. So I'm about to go and do The Princess Bride in England, and the first 6 weeks, 2 months, we were shooting up in a town called Sheffield, totally away from everything, nothing there, no attractions, nothing for kids to do. So my wife and I agreed that we were going to leave them there. I was going to go on location, and then we'd meet in London for the last half. So I want to sit my daughters at the time, who were 3.5 and 2, down and tell them Daddy's going away, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and oh, and by the way, there's a princess in the movie, and nothing, right? They didn't care, couldn't care less for some reason. And then going on, and I said, well, there's this guy who's a sword fighter, and then there's a giant. There's a giant, Daddy? There's a giant in this movie? Is the giant really big? Is the giant really huge? Could he pick you up and throw you down? Is it as big as a house? Is it as big as Well, the questions never stopped. And whenever I'm speaking to the children now, I'm now in England, right? And I'm on the phone. I call home, try to call home every day if I can't, frequently. And whenever the children come on the phone, I say, hi, I want to say hi to Stephanie and Alexis. And they get on the phone. Hi, Daddy. Where's the giant? Is he as big as a house, as big as a car? Can he pick you up and he can throw you? So they were besotted with the idea that I'm working with a giant, okay? So finally they get to England, and they get off the plane. My wife's carrying one of the kids, and I'm going, darling, darling. And she's looking at me and she's going, giant? Daddy? Giant? Giant? So finally, I talked to Andre one day, and I said, Andre, is it okay if I come to the set with the kids, because they'd love to meet you? Of course, boss. That's fine. So one day, he's working, I'm not working. We take the kids to the set. It's a scene where, if you guys are familiar with the movie, where Fezzik is helping the Brute Squad round up all the criminals, and he finds Inigo. Okay, so they're working, I'm not working, and he has a giant makeup trailer because he didn't fit into the regular trailer. He couldn't sit in a seat, they couldn't make him up. So he had one that was as big as a boxcar. And he has a chair down at the end of it, and my daughters and I have to do this, I'm sorry, but so we're coming through the door, and Andre's down there, right? So I have one of my daughters in my arm, and my ex has one of them in her arms, and we walk in, and we walk down, and we look, and there's Andre all the way down there, and he's sitting down. And then he gets up. My daughters looked at him. They start screaming, both of them, right? One starts screaming, then the second one starts screaming, and they're both screaming at the top of their lungs. It is deafening. If any of you who have small girls, you'd know, right? And they're screaming. We had to take them out. They were completely hysterical, right? So I take them back to the car, and I have to go back to apologize. I go back and I say, Andre, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the kids doing this. It's okay, boss. Either they run from me or they run to me. That was how he had to live, Andre, because he was probably at the time the most famous person in the world because of wrestling, because they traveled everywhere to wrestle, right? And to see Andre in a public setting was extraordinary because literally he was like, it's hard, I'm trying to think, but it was like there were insects who were kind of gathering around him because he was so big. He would tower over everybody, and people would rush to him, or they would run away screaming. And he had a kind of dignity that it didn't faze him. Basically, Andre was very much at one with who he was, what he had to deal with, because he had to deal with a lot, both in terms of his size, and also he had really bad health problems as a result of this condition that he had that made him so large. So he was an extraordinary guy, and that's my Andre story. Yeah.
Hello, what's your name?
Gunner.
Hey,
Hi.
Gunnar.
Do you know where I was wondering, do you know where the original Chucky doll is from Child's Play?
Oh, I have no idea. And there were a bunch of them. There had to be. You know, there had to be doubles for different kinds of things that they were using the doll for. So I honestly don't know. Yeah, sorry, Gunnar. Can't help you.
Hello, what's your name?
I'm Annie. So my daughter just turned 12, and one of our favorite things to do is we'll have like a girls' day in the house and put on Princess Bride. She wanted me to ask you if you had a favorite scene from the movie.
A favorite scene from the movie? I a couple. I think probably the one, it's of course my scene, right? With Count Rugen, where we're standing, getting ready to go down to the pit of despair, and he asked me, and I say, I'm sorry, you know, Tyrone, I love watching you work, but, you know, I have this to do, I have my wife to murder, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great line. And I think, first of all, I think it's one of the great lines I've ever had in a movie. That one, yeah, that scene. Yeah, because I've had, you know, I was when I did Tale of Two Cities, I got to say, it's a far, far better thing I do than I've ever done, far better place I go to than I've ever gone before. I mean, you know, come on. At any rate, yes. Thank you.
Hello, what's your name?
My name is Wendy, and I gotta say I'm a huge fan of Night Before Christmas and Princess Bride. I grew up watching it since I was a little kid. And I was wondering if you had any, like, bloopers while you were doing your voices of Jack Skellington, while you were recording for the movie or anything like that? Did anything like any funny outtake moments?
Well, the process itself is, you know, when you're working in animation, you're doing generally lots of takes of the same thing over and over again because the director wants choices. And so it's hard to give you a sense of whether there were any bloopers or not. There probably were along the way. It's been a long time, obviously, since we made the movie. But also, you're doing things over and over again, but differently. So the director is saying, do this, give me this line like 5 or 6 different ways, or 10 ways, or whatever, or just do 10, but don't tell me what you're going to do. And then they patch it all together, and then they animate it. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we have about 15 minutes left. I think we can try to get through the rest of these. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Sid.
Hi, Sid.
Hi, Sid.
My question is, so Fright Night is one of my favorite movies, and you made an appearance, like a little cameo in the remake. How did you feel about learning there was going to be a remake?
They called it a reimagining. Well, semantics, but it's important because they didn't want it to be a copy of the old movie. They wanted to use the basic characters and the plot, but reimagine the whole thing. And it was a great experience because they asked me to do it. First of all, they sent me the script and said, is there something in here that you'd like to do? And I said, I'd like for the Jerry in that movie to kill the Jerry in the former movie. That is, there to be a recycling, in a way, a vampire recycling, right? And that's what they let me do. Yeah, it was great. They were terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, what's your name?
My name is Kyle. I'm from here in Des Moines.
Hey,
Kyle.
Kyle.
Hi, Chris. So I've been a fan of you ever since seeing the first frame of the first trailer for Nightmare Before Christmas when I was a kid, when they had the TV advertisement. What has been the moment where you've had your biggest fan experience, where you got to meet an actor or someone that you got to meet that really made you make your jaw drop?
Wow. I think probably when I did that, the Tale of Two Cities, and I got to meet Peter Cushing.
Yes.
And I walked into the rehearsal room. You guys know Peter Cushing from the Hammer movies. And he was playing Mr. Manette, Dr. Manette. And I walked into the rehearsal room, and he had on a pair of white gloves, and with the fingers tips cut off, and he was smoking a cigarette so that the tobacco wouldn't stain his fingers. And I walked in, and oh my God, it's Peter Cushing. And he said, "Hello, dear boy." It was very cool, very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Megan.
Hi, Megan.
So you've reprised your role as Jack Skellington in video games like Oogie's Revenge and the Kingdom Hearts series. I was wondering, was there any difference between when you were recording Jack for the video games versus recording for the movie?
Interestingly, to me anyway, maybe to you, I for some reason, the first time I sat down, for instance, when they were doing Kingdom Hearts, and I came into the studio to do it, and I thought, you know, too much time has passed, and there's a script in front of me, and there are all these lines. I mean, when they do it, particularly for video games, you have a script of like maybe 20 pages, and it's literally a line, and they're numbered, and you have to do them all over and over and over again, each one, right? So that they have different choices, different screams, different yells, different ways of reading particular lines. And I looked at the script and I went, huh, he's there. Somehow Jack made an appearance. I have no idea, please, if I could explain it, I would, but he came back. After many years. I can't remember when Kingdom Hearts came out. Do you?
2002 was the
Yeah. So I probably recorded it in 2001 or 2000. So a number of years, at least 7 or 8 years in between the making of the movie. And I opened my mouth, and there he was. I have no idea. It's an act of alchemy of some kind. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Sorry.
Well, you sound amazing in the game.
Yeah, and he keeps coming back to visit me. Yeah, every time. I just finished doing a new game. Yeah, it's a racing game of some kind.
Oh, yes.
That Disney does? Okay, you guys know, I don't.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Erin. Chris, it's very nice to be able to do this. I'm kind of starstruck a little bit.
Oh,
because
you.
I grew up watching you in Princess Bride, so big kudos to that movie. I loved that movie growing up, and my mom wouldn't let me watch Fright Nights, so I had to watch that with my husband when I got older. So to me, you were just consummately that jerk, right? Like when you play a
Thank you so very much.
When you play a bad guy so well, which is what you did, and that's not who you are, but that's who your character was. And I'm saying that to say that
Thank you for mentioning
you're
that.
very welcome. Then I saw Nightmare Before Christmas, and I love that movie. And I think a lot of people maybe do this now. We watch movies, and we're like, what else were they in? And who's these voices? And some of those voices stood out to me. Like I could hear Catherine O'Hara. and I didn't recognize I'm like, that's Chris Sarandon? Like, no way, Prince Humperdinck. So my question comes in twofold, which is, when did you start doing the voiceover work, or did it start with Nightmare Before Christmas? And then how did that come about? Was that also like, was that just simply an audition, or did that, were you encouraged to try out for it?
My agent called me and said, there's an animated movie that Tim Burton is doing, and they'd like you to come in and audition, basically. Definitely an audition.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned that the singing had already been done. Danny's voice had already been recorded. So I had that I could listen to, because they said, we're looking for a voice that will match Danny's voice. And I got lucky. My voice, the voice that I came up with was the same. I grew up doing voices and things at home, when we were playing and then telling stories and jokes and what have you. And I'm blessed with a good ear, and I know what people sound like, and I'm able to imitate them. So that's it.
And that was the first one, though? Was that
Yes,
your first voiceover?
first big
Incredible.
voiceover, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, what's your name?
I've been a fan of a lot of things you've done. Growing up, I watched ER with my parents. I know you as Dr. Burke. I've watched Law and Order. Obviously, as a child, my favorite is Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack, and all that. So I got actually two questions. The first one is, of all the roles that you've done, I know that somebody asked which one was the funnest, but have you ever had any that was like really difficult or hard for you to do? And my second question is, if you were to pass the torch to any actor to play Jack Skellington, who would it be?
First of all, I'll answer the second one. I wouldn't dare.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, he's mine. He's all mine. I mean that semi-seriously, but seriously enough, right. And difficulty, they're all hard. I mean, one of the reasons why I feel good about Tale of Two Cities is because I had played two different characters in the same movie, and often had to play scenes with myself, so that I had an earbud, an old-fashioned one, this was a while back, in my ear with a recording of the other character, my portrayal of the other character in the same scene, and then having to play the scene with that recording, and do it in a way back in the old days. Here's the way we did it, folks. When you played a scene with somebody, there was no CGI, right? They literally nailed the camera into the floor in one spot. Let's say you and I are doing a scene together, so the camera's over there. That's the camera. They nail the camera down to the floor, all right? It's on a tripod. And then they put a half moon over one side of the lens so that I'm blacked out. And Milo is live, okay? So that's me playing Charles Darnay,
Right.
and I'm interacting with Sidney Carton. We're talking, and there's an actor sitting in, right, on this side, and he's blacked out. You can't see him. Then they stop. I go and change. They take the thing off the lens and put it on the other side and literally wind the film back through the big can to where it started. And the only way they have of making sure that it's in sync is the clapper at the beginning. You guys have seen that, where somebody goes boom like that. That's for synchronization, for sound and video. And then I sat down and played the scene again, and I could hear my dialogue from that take that the guy recorded, and did that. And it was the last shot of the day that I had to do that. And if we didn't get it, we had to come back the next day, and it would cost like $100,000 to reshoot, because they'd have to go back and do the whole thing all over again. And I got it on the last take. That was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. What's your name?
Lennon,
Hi.
what was it like working with the cast of The Nightmare Before Christmas?
The answer to that question is, surprisingly, I never worked with anybody except for one day with Catherine O'Hara, where I did the Jack and Sally scenes. We did the Jack and Sally scenes together. Other than that, I was never in the studio with anybody else. Yeah, I know, weird, right? And that's pretty much the experience with all the actors in the movie. Everybody pretty much worked on their own. They may have had, and I don't quote me on this, but Lock, Shock, and Barrel, they were doing a scene together. They may have had Catherine and Paul Rubens, and I can't remember who was the other one of the terrible threesome. But I never saw anybody except Henry Selick, the director, and me in the studio, except for Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Adie. I was just wondering if there was any time or desire that you were able to take or wanted to take anything from any of the sets that you were on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a bunch of Jack heads that they used. There were 400 heads, Jack heads. And I found out last week, 2 weeks ago at a panel that I did with one of the supervising producers and the producer, I had been quoting that the movie, that the process is very slow because it's literally a frame at a time. And I kept quoting that there was 11 seconds of film usable scene per week, and they disabused me of that. It was 3 seconds. Yeah. So there were 400 Jack heads, right? And so one of the producers gave me 4 or 5 of the heads I still have.
That's amazing.
And I have the blackboard that Jack uses when he's trying to figure everything out. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I have Prince Humperdinck's flag from The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I used to have some of the clothes from Fright Night, but they got old. Clothes get old, right? I never had the leather coat, which was so cool, right? But other than that, I have a couple of different flags from different movies that I've done. I played Abe Lincoln a couple of times, oddly enough, on PBS. And so I have some old, they're not antiques, but Civil War flags, stuff like that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Chelsea, and she took my question, but I didn't want to get out of
Oh no, come back and give it back.
I mostly wanted to know if you kept Humperdinck's crown or his cape, and then you're just like, I'm the king, and you walk around. Because obviously that's
Yeah, I just, I hang out at home and I put the cape on. And, my wife loves it. It's a real turn on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we have our last question here. Hello, what's your name?
My name is Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
The cute little Jack Skellington took part of my question, but I wanted to ask you, Catherine O'Hara is absolutely iconic, and I didn't know if while working with her you had an extreme chemistry, or even the actors you didn't get to meet, listening to their roles. Did you find any chemistry or impassion together with them to?
Yeah, I wish I'd had more time. Ken Page, who's not with us today, and from what I understand, it was a family emergency. But Ken and I we didn't work together at all.
Oh wow.
Okay. And we've become really close friends as a result of doing these. Yeah.
You knew what to do.
You
guys executed it very well, so thank you for giving solace to so many people.
Oh, please. You also have to thank Henry Selick as well, and all the great artists, the animators who actually, manipulated the figures.
It's all frame by frame, correct?
Yep. One frame at a time, literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
And thank you all here. Chris, before we go, again, while, when working on set, working at a studio, recording, you have a microphone right there, and you don't get to really see anybody. So can you, as we wrap up here, can you give a few words on what it's like to actually see your fans here, be able to hear their stories, look in their eyes?
Oh, golly, are you kidding? This is I mean, I do these fairly regularly. And I've often talked about the fact that I've done a lot of theater. I've done Broadway, and I've done off-Broadway and regional theater, and that's really how I started. And you have a relationship with the audience when you're doing a play. It's not about, we're not speaking to each other, but they are communicating by their reactions to what's going on. And it's always different. It's different every night. And when you're making movies and television, you don't have that. You have it's very exciting in the sense that you're working with really cool people and you're collaborating with them, and it's fun to be on a set, and et cetera, et cetera. But you don't really realize what these movies mean to people until you come to these shows. And I have never gotten either tired or unappreciative of the fact that you guys are what makes it happen. Because but for you, I wouldn't be here. And but for you, these movies wouldn't be made. That you love so much and that have such a place in your lives. And to be able to communicate that with you in person is a great gift. And I thank you.
Give it up.